Hey y'all, I'm getting ready to paint one of our daughter's bedroom furniture. I'm going to be painting her bed, dresser, mirror, and a desk chair, desk, and a side table. I'm also going to be making my own do-it-yourself chalk paint recipe. So follow along and let's get to work. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do when you're chalk painting a piece of furniture is wipe it down really well. And then, as you can see, this is, kind of dirty. And then after you've wiped your piece down really well, you're going to lightly sand. And you're going to lightly sand because that's going to give something to your piece to kind of be able to adhere to. I'm getting ready to mix my chalk paint. I have 1 cup of Sherwin-Williams latex paint in the color Creamy. I also use the color Ibis White. Ibis White is what my kitchen cabinets are painted with, and I had someone ask me a question about that yesterday, and I could not find where the person asked me on my Instagram page, so I apologize, but the color of my kitchen cabinets is Sherwin-Williams in Ibis White. This color is Sherwin-Williams Creamy. Okay, so I've mixed the baking soda into the paint, and now I'm going to pour 1 teaspoon of water into the paint, and then I'm going to mix all of this again and incorporate it really well into the paint, and then it's ready to go. And the brand of paintbrush that I'm using is Wooster. This is always the brand that I use. It's a really good brand. You don't want to use a cheap paintbrush because it'll leave lots of brush strokes into your paint. And when you're painting with chalk paint, you want to make sure that you're using long brush strokes so that you don't have lots of brush strokes in your paint when your furniture dries. Now that 1 coat has dried on the bed frame, I'm going to lightly sand on top of the chalk paint. And the reason why is because when you lightly sand in between coats, it will not have brush strokes at all. So I like super smooth furniture. So I'm getting ready to show y'all what I do when I sand. Long strokes in the direction of the grain of the wood. So if your direction of your grain of your wood goes this way, horizontal, you're going to sand horizontally. So you're just going to lightly sand. I'm using, I think this is 120 grit sandpaper. You don't want anything super tough, but it's very smooth now. I just lightly sanded it and it's super smooth. So if you feel smoothness, then you've done your job on sanding. If it feels a little bit rough, you need to lightly sand a little bit more until it feels smooth. And also, don't worry about, do you see how it's starting to show through the furniture here? That's fine. Don't worry about that because you're going to want to distress your piece. So it's going to be distressed anyways. And then I started distressing it lightly here. I just take 120 grit sandpaper and just lightly do it until you get the distress that you want. So I'm getting ready to sand the 2nd coat. I'm going to look at it really well when I'm finished and see if I think it needs a 3rd coat. A lot of the times when you paint with chalk paint on a lighter piece of furniture, you do not need 3 coats, you need 2. But on darker pieces, usually you need 3, just depending on how much coverage you want. And I want full coverage, so we'll see. This is the wax that I use. It's a clear wax, Martha Stewart from Michael's. It's under 10 bucks with a coupon. And this should last for all of the pieces of furniture that I'm doing in this bedroom. So I'm getting ready to put on the 1st coat of wax. It's a good thing when you're finished with all of your sanding and distressing, it's still going to have some of that residue from the sanding, and you do not want that in your wax because you can't get it off. So you just wipe it down really well with a dampened wet cloth, and then you'll be ready to apply the 1st layer of wax. Okay, I've got 1 coat of chalk paint on the bed frame, and I've moved over here to the dresser, and I have already, for the top and the mirror, I have already cleaned it and sanded it lightly. I decide if I need to tape along the edges. Sometimes that tape just kind of gets in my way, and I have a steady enough hand to where I don't get it on the mirror, so I'm not sure if I'm going to tape it yet. I want to show y'all the long brush strokes that I'm talking about. And when you have a piece and the wood grain is going to go this way, you're painting the same as the wood grain. So I start and I go all the way down. Completely finished. I'm finishing the knobs. It also needed 3 coats with sanding in between and 2 coats of wax. The knobs are here. I know I make a huge mess, so it's whatever. And the chair, I've got to do another coat of paint on it. And this is the desk drawer and the desk and the table, which have had 2 coats. I'm letting that dry. So I wanted to give y'all an example of what 1 coat looks like. So this chair was painted with a semi-gloss paint. It was the same color as this. It was creamy or either ibis white. Those are the colors that I use for my furniture with Sherwin-Williams. So really it did not need another coat, but I'm picky. So I wanted to kind of show you, if you can see right here, some of that paint that semi-gloss is starting to show through from sanding. I do not want that. Some people are not that picky, but I am. So I'm going to do 1 more coat on the chair. And as you can see, like I was telling you earlier, sometimes when you begin sanding, it will automatically just kind of distress it for you, and that's fine. It's not going to hurt anything, because where it automatically kind of distresses is kind of where it would be worn and distressed anyway. So don't let that like scare you once you start doing that. We finally finished and we've got everything cleaned and put back together. I'm so glad that we're done. So I wanted to give y'all a little up close of how the chalk painted furniture turned out. I don't do super heavy stressing. I just like lightly stressed. So that's what I've done. This is the headboard and the little side table and the dresser and mirror. And swing you around. This is the desk and the chair.